What's cracking, everybody? I wanted to make a quick video for people like me who was raised in the States but happen to be Mexican, right? We have Mexican citizenship, we don't have American citizenship. I personally self-deported about 2 months ago, and I kind of want to give you guys an update or some kind of glimpse of what to expect when you come to Mexico from the United States, right? You're gonna need certain paperwork to be able to work. You're gonna need something called CURP. You're gonna need your RFC. You're gonna need your INE. You're gonna need to register with the IMSS. You're gonna have to provide some kind of paperwork of a residency. You know, if you have family that live in Mexico, right? Fortunately, my family live in TJ, so I was able to get some kind of proof of residency through family that already live here. You're gonna need to get your birth certificate, your Mexican birth certificate. You're gonna need many different kinds of paperwork, but the ones I mentioned right now are the most essential to be able to work, and that's main priority when you move over here. That's main priority because you need to work. Now I'm gonna give you guys a little glimpse of what happens when you start working, right? Many of us believe that you can't make it in Mexico. You know, our parents left Mexico at a time when Mexico was full of poverty, and it does have a type of culture shock. You are gonna miss out on certain things. Mexico isn't America. There's certain things that are different. Like one of the things that kind of had me on a trip was like the streets aren't clean, or like certain, it doesn't look like the States. It looks dirty, it looks fucked up, but it's not. And there's hope. There's hope out here. Being out here, I learned a lot of things. I learned that us as Mexican citizens, we have a lot of rights and we have a lot of benefits. We have free healthcare. As long as you're working with a good company, you have free healthcare. In 6 months, if you're working at a company that documents taxes and things like that to the government, in 6 months you could own your own property. Not own it in the sense that it's fully paid, but in the sense of you apply to get your property and you make payments on it, and the payments are affordable. I pay 6,000 pesos a month for the apartment that I rent. But once this benefit is, once I'm able to actually get this benefit, it's called Infonavit, INFOAVIT. Once you're able to apply for this benefit, you could have your own property, pay it in monthly payments. They take it out of your check, and you only pay 6,000 pesos a month, and you're able to have your own house. In 10 years, you could pay it off. I'm 28. Once I'm able to apply for this, by the time I'm 40, I'll be able to have my own property. I'll be able to have my own house. But, one thing I will tell you is, don't compare American gains with Mexican gains. If you look at life like, oh, in the States I made $2,000 a quincena, or I made $2,000 a week, or whatever amount of money you made in the States, don't expect that over here. I myself, I make 4,000 pesos a week. That's about 16,000 pesos a month. My rent is only 6,000 pesos. My water bill is 800 pesos, and my light bill is 600 pesos. So after I paid all that off, I still have money left off on my bills. I'm still able to raise some money. I'm still able to save some money. And I have a 2-bedroom apartment. I'm making decent money, and I'm not paying too much to be able to live. Many companies here offer food. Many companies here offer many different benefits that in the States you probably wouldn't even be able to get. I know myself, I wasn't able to get some of these benefits because I was a Mexican citizen. I wasn't an American. So with this video, I'm just trying to give you guys a little bit of light, a little bit of hope. If you're like me, that was raised in the States but was not born there, there's hope over here. We have hope. We have some kind of, uh, especially if you have fluent English. If you have fluent English, man, if you have fluent English, you're basically like someone that went to college, and you're able to make more money than the typical Mexican. I love my people. I love my Mexicanos, all that. But my English has put me in a level where I'm a little bit more above making money than the regular Mexican here in Tijuana. And this is Tijuana. This is the most expensive state in Mexico. If you go more down south, your value is even higher. But I'm in Tijuana right now, so my value is at a certain rate. But you could live comfortable. There's certain companies that pay more than what I get paid. But I choose not to go there because my company has so many good benefits that it's better for me to just stay here. In 6 months I could have my own house, I could have my own property, I could have my own land. And it's not like the states where you buy your own property. It's not like the states where you buy your own property and the government could take that shit away from you just because you don't pay it. It's not like the states where you gotta pay a good amount of money every year or whenever they decide to charge you on taxes. Right here, once the property is yours, it's yours. Nobody could take that away from you. Not the government, nobody. It's your property. So we have so many good benefits here as Mexican citizens, and even more as English speaking Mexican citizens. It's kind of like if you went to college, and I know our parents, our ancestors that migrated to the United States, um, believe that they left for a better life. But in the United States, unfortunately, it's not like that. Especially not now. Especially now with the things that's been going on. Today is a different day, and if you're like me, if you're a Mexican citizen that somehow ended up in the United States for a better life, I want you to know that for being an English speaker, you could have an even better life here in Mexico. There's hope. And if you feel like self-deporting to save your mental health, to save your, just to save your mental health, that's the main thing right there. My mental health was fucked up. It was fucked up. I was paranoid. I had anxiety attacks. I had all kinds of mental problems before I came over here. You know, and just keep in mind also that you're gonna lose things. You're gonna lose things that you love and hold dear. You might lose your family, you lose your kids, you might lose, you're gonna lose things. You're gonna lose things that it's gonna hurt. And you're gonna feel depressed, and you're gonna feel like life is kicking your ass. But I promise you, once you're able to work, and once you're able to get past that, you're gonna live a good life. It was tough for me. I left everything behind. I left my family behind. I left my kids behind. I left everything behind. But one thing I did gain was my mental peace, and one thing I did gain was my stability mentally. I was able to gain some kind of knowledge within myself to be able to move forward. So I want you to know that there's hope. And just because immigration is doing what it's doing, if you're a Mexican citizen and you speak fluent English, just know you could make it out here. Good. You could have a good life out here. You could travel. It's not expensive to travel here in Mexico. Right now, I have an agenda. I'm trying to travel to 2 different destinations in Mexico every year that I'm here, because right here you get 12 days of vacation time per year that you work. So if you're able to maintain yourself in a company for a whole year, you get 12 paid vacation days by law. You get free healthcare by law. You get all these benefits, so many benefits as a Mexican citizen. And our parents left to have a better life in a time where Mexico was not what it was today, in a time where Mexico isn't what it is today. Mexico is a good place. I love Mexico. I found my peace here. I found my happiness here. Unfortunately, I lost things, and unfortunately, I had to move on from whatever I lost. But you could have a good life. So I'm just trying to pass this little bit of hope to y'all, man. Stay up.